What's up, dudes? HW here. What's up, man? Morning over here in Nashville. Another beautiful morning over here in Nashville. And the snow is still falling. It's like rain on a Tuesday. This is Wednesday. Still wish it was Sunday. I'm playing an oldie but a goodie. And this thing might be for sale. If there's a link below that says this thing's for sale, it's for sale. I go back and forth on selling this guitar because it's one of the only ones I have like it. And it's not really a guitar that fits me totally, but that's okay. Sometimes you got different things in the collection. But today we're talking about modelers. And is there a future-proof modeler? And which modelers are future-proof? Now, before we go any further, let me just say something. I already know where your mind is jumping to because it's where my mind jumps to. You go, HW, no such thing as a future-proof monitor, a modeler, or Kemper profiler, or whatever, QC or whatever, because I had an old Commodore 64 I used to play video games on. I had an old Windows 95 machine. I had a Windows Millennium, Windows XP. I had a Mac Grand Canyon OS. I had the original iMac. Where are those today? They're in a trash dump, you know? Well, let's examine this from a little bit of a fresh perspective. Of course, it's very easy to say, is any technology out there going to be outdated, going to become irrelevant, outpaced, antiquated, by the time new stuff comes out in the future. I think there is a truth to that, right? But I'd like to point us to a couple examples of what's big in the market today. I think we know from Reverb, the biggest selling unit today by dollars is the Quad Cortex. The Tonex has to be the next most fastest selling item right now in the market today. But the Helix is probably the best selling ecosystem of all time, being that we've had Helix, Pod Go, HX Stomp XL, if you count the software in there too, not to mention that all these effects have been brought over to other things. I mentioned Pod Go, there's also the Catalyst amp, there's the Pod, the little Pod, I said Pod Go, but there's the little Pod too, I forget what they call that thing. Helix has really shown us, the DL4 is all those algorithms now. Helix has really showed us that you can take a certain set of algorithms and just put it in any sort of form factor, and there's some market for it. People will really want it and like it. And there's a use on the pedal board for it. And so that's probably the best-selling ecosystem, I would imagine, now of all time. In terms of stuff that works together. They're really the only ones that have something like that. But you even take the Kemper. I will tell you, the Kemper market is still alive and well. I get people all the time, I'm buying my first Kemper. I'm considering either the player or the stage. What would you suggest? I know from talking to the guys at Kemper that the Kemper stage, when it came out just a few years ago, outpaced every other item big time. And when they were launching the player, I said, are you selling more players than stages? And I didn't get a yes or no to that. But the answer I got back was something like this. It was something like, well, of course you're going to sell more of cheaper units. And that, I think, really clues us into something, in that the market is really responding to these cheaper units. And that's where you see Tonex, focusing. That's where you see the new Nano Quad Cortex. That's where you see these things. And so I think we're going to get a lot more innovation in the future there in the smaller footprints. People want more at a smaller, cheaper price point. In terms of the larger $1,600 units, that seems to be the price of everything. The Helix, the Quad Cortex, the Kemper Stage, the Axe effects. Everybody's trying to hit this $16.99, $15.99, $14.99 price point, depending on when things are on sale and whatnot. They all fit right there. Is it going to be antiquated? Is it going to be future-proof? Here's, I think, the real question. If you have a Johnson J Station amp from before Line 6, like one of the first modelers, and before Line 6 made the pod, Johnson made the Johnson J Station. If you have that or you have a Line 6 pod, original one, does it still work today the same way it worked then? The answer to that question is yes. And I think what we're really asking ourselves is this. By future-proof, do you mean that nothing will come out in the future that has more features, a better screen, or a whatever? Because if you remove those features and you just say, what does a modeler say it does? A modeler says it sounds like the amp. You can plug it into something XLR or quarter inch, and you can plug your guitar into it, and it sounds like an amp. As true as you think that is, or as close as it gets, it sounds like this. I think if that's the criteria for being future-proof, I would point out that we are seeing a lot more future-proof solutions today than we thought we would have 10 years ago. The Kemper is still tricking as many people on stages across the country as it ever has. You can plug in the XLR on one end, go direct to the board, plug in your guitar on the other, and nobody knows you don't have an amp. People are going to say, oh no, there's this test. They're going to point to this guy did this null test and this, and Kemper's the least accurate, or Quad Cortex is the next least accurate, because really NAMM and Tonex are the most accurate. None of that matters. You put drums in, you put bass in. No one can tell anything apart, right? Lincoln Brewster actually toured with his Line 6 pod for a long time, and nobody was really. I don't think he sold any less tickets. You know what I'm saying? So obviously now everyone's using newer stuff, but he was one of the first guys I ever heard that took the pod on the road and said, "I'm just bringing this, no amp." And I think that caught the eye of the modeling community at the time, which was probably like 8 people. But now it's everybody. It seems like everyone is open to a modeler, or at least having one as a backup or something. So we all want to have something that's future-proof. I think the thing to remember today is, if you buy something that's XLR or quarter inch on one end, that standard's not going to change. In 30 years, we're still going to be asking guitar players, we're either going to be micing stuff, because we're still going to have amps, because guitar players are never going to want to get rid of amps. There's always going to be gigs where you want to do the amp thing. Greta Van Fleet will be playing amps when they're as old as Led Zeppelin is now. You know what I'm saying? The Led Zeppelin style band of today is going to be playing amps when they're as old as Zepp. So there's always going to be microphones. Microphones are always going to be in studios. There's always going to be a desire to have an analog, beautiful sort of recreation, capturing of authentic instruments. But as long as you've got a quarter inch or an XLR on one end, I think however well it delivers today, it's going to deliver in the future. And I don't see that getting so different, because we are at a point of diminishing returns. I see all these guys kind of online, hyping up NAMM. And NAMM is something I think, I'm going to make another video on this. NAMM is, I think, going to be the best modeling platform of 2025 in terms of the amount of growth it sees. I think NAMM is right about to blow up, actually. And that's why I've actually been making a bunch of NAMM stuff quietly so I can drop it all at once. But I think NAMM, Neural Amp Modeler, the open source tech, is about to really start gaining some steam with the new stuff that's out there, the new utilities for it. I think Tonex is obviously going to continue what I think is like a reign of dominance in terms of they're moving so many units at these low price points that it only makes sense they're going to go to a higher price point on some stuff and give us an all-in-one. And is that going to be future-proof? I don't see Tonex and NAMM and Neural Quad Cortex, I don't see them all redoing their technology anytime soon. And I think we're at a point where you can't, unless you sit down kind of like a geek and do these null tests back and forth and do these measurements, you can't tell in a band. You can't tell in a mix. And so we're at the point where only the players are able to tell when they really focus and when they set up these experiments. And with that, the incentive for this tech to get way better, way faster, I think has gone away. AI has presented, we can copy it. The scenario where each of these platforms say, yes, we can copy that. And I'll tell you, I make stuff for Kemper. I make stuff for Helix. I tone match stuff on the Helix with just IRs. I do it on Axe. We do tone matching on Axe. We do the full captures on Quad Cortex, on Tonex, on NAM. I'll tell you, everything sounds like the amps. What I think it really comes down to for most players is which platform they like and how it fits into what they're doing. But some are more accurate than others, but all of them seem accurate enough to satisfy guitar players up and down the spectrum. Some people are going to be up here. I'm only satisfied with this very small amount of nuance. But we're also entering a time where guitar players are not demanding as much from modelers, because more and more guitar players today haven't played all the amps that are back here. They've only been playing on modelers. So they're actually easier to please, and the tech's gotten so good that almost everyone's happy. And you're always going to have this like vocal minority. These are the people that run out and buy like tube stereos for their home for their home stereo system. They're like, I'm not going to listen to iPod Airbuds. Well, go look at the market. Go look at the revenue of Apple with Airbud and Beats by Dre and all these things. The market has spoken. Nobody cares about Macintosh giant hi-fi stereo systems. Just stream it over, Wi-Fi, compress it, degrade the crap out of it, and put it in my ear. That's all I care about, right? As long as I can hum the latest Billie Eilish song, that's all I care about. And that's the truth, man. That's just where we're at today. So, which one is future-proof? I think if you look at it that way, they're all a bit future-proof. As good as it is today, it will be in 10 years. Now, can you get this stuff serviced? As long as those companies are around, you can. But I think really we're moving towards a point where you're going to drop $1,500 today, and that same unit in the future will be worth half as much. And so it will be easy to replace. You'll be able to replace it with a unit that probably has more features but has some backwards compatibility. That's my prediction. We're going to have a lot more backwards compatibility in the future because there's all this big library of stuff that people don't want to get rid of. And they're going to roll it forward so that users can easily move forward with everything they've purchased, with everything they own, with all their settings and all that stuff. I don't think you're going to see any more, Axe 2 to Axe 3. None of my Axe 2 presets work. Someone makes a third-party system that ports it all over and moves it forward, and then you have all these I don't think you're going to see that stuff. I think you're going to see backwards compatibility be a big part of the future of upgraded modeling, and I think they're going to take certain softwares and stuff and move it forward and then add to it, just kind of like Line 6 has done, where they've added stuff to the Helix, but you have legacy stuff from the the M9 days. You have those effects, but they've given you new effects. You have old amp models from launch, and you have brand new ones that I think are a lot better, actually. And so I think you'll see that in the future. So if you want my opinion, they're all a lot more future-proof than I think we have realized, because you're still going to see Kempers on stages in 10 years. You're still going to see QCs, and you'll see the next-gen stuff as well. And as long as it works, it's already fooling the audience, and it's going to continue to. I've been HW.